everybody, welcome back to another episode of 5 Minute Gaming News, the show that may or may not be 5 minutes. Today in the news, let me once again say, I was totally wrong. Years ago, I remember being on the Co-optional podcast and saying, I don't understand this Switch. It's both a console and a portable, and who is this for? Who wants this thing? Well, apparently everyone is the answer, because the Nintendo Switch is now the third highest selling console of all time. The Nintendo Switch has now outsold the PS4 and Game Boy, selling 122.55 million units overall as of the end of 2022, Nintendo announced in its earnings report. So now it's only behind the DS and PlayStation 2 in lifetime sales. Over on Engadget, they do say there might be tough times ahead for the console, as Switch unit sales for the 9-month period ending December 31st dropped to 14.91 million from 18.95 million the year before, a revenue decline of about 5.6% for the fiscal year ending in March. Game sales also fell by 4% over the same period. But none of that matters unless you're like a Vanderbilt or something and you're worrying about stock prices and dividends and shares and what. They are selling a lot. It's extremely popular. Everyone buys them. The difference really between 18 and 14 million is whatever. It is a lot of consoles sold, and it is very impressive. And yeah, I was way off. Turns out, if you have the things people want to play, if you're convenient and available PlayStation, people buy your product. In other news of upcoming products that I'm sure companies wish you would buy, but strangely, they've made it very difficult to want to do so, Redfall, the cooperative shooter that we've talked about before that is coming very soon, and unfortunately, while you can choose to game alone or with 3 others, there is no option for offline play. As CBR says in an opinion piece about the subject, in recent years, developers have adopted anti-piracy practices to ensure the safety and protection of their projects. DRM, or digital rights management, is the most effective way to protect copyrights for digital media, including video games. It essentially limits the copying and selling of games and is used to authenticate game purchases. Utilizing an online-only model with DRM takes it a step further. Making sure the player is always connected online authenticates the player's game. Although this practice is beneficial to developers and their products, the online-only model can pose a problem for the player. And while the problems they list are things about like connections, be it yours or the server and any issues there, and how that might dissuade you from playing more if you have issues playing at all, DRM in general sucks. I've been on this train for years, almost a decade now. It is not great. It's why I love GOG. It's the whole DRM free. Digital rights management is always a pain in the ass, and it always is a negative for the consumer. And worse, when a studio decides to cut its losses and no longer support a product that results in a decision to shut down servers of online games permanently, without the ability to play offline, this leaves players with no option and their purchase becomes worthless. The piece goes on to mention that Back 4 Blood, Marvel's Avengers, It Takes Two, all launched this way. And all 3 switched because of complaints. And I think it's great that people are speaking up on this, because you might as well do it now than rather the game come out, you fall in love with it and then realize it's just a pain in the ass to play, or, now you're worried about what could happen in the future. And even though he isn't necessarily talking about Redfall, I think it's very interesting that in a recent statement, longtime video game guy and Oculus dude John Carmack, while talking about VR and his time at Meta, also said this after Meta shut down a bunch of its products. I thought it was a mistake not to keep Oculus rooms running and port to Quest. And I thought it was a mistake to abandon all the Gear VR Go content when my emulation layer worked for at least a good chunk of things. I believe in saving everything. Even if there are only 10,000 active users, destroying that user value should be avoided if possible. Your company suffers more harm when you take away something dear to a user than you gain in benefit by providing something equally valuable to them or others. The idea being that any company that has anything to offer, the longer you can offer it, even if it's to a dwindling user base, that goes a long way in terms of value to your company with those people, right? You are keeping them engaged, they love your company, and that's goodwill. Sadly, it's not monetary. It's not a monetary value, which unfortunately a lot of companies only really care about these days. But you know what I do care about? Myself, Alex, and Davis will be at WASD in London this March 30th through April 1st. We would love to see you then. Come on by, stop on by. We're doing some Scary Game Squad shows at night. During the day, we'll be doing some things on the show floor. Like, it'll be great. It'll be a blast. Can't wait to see y'all. Plus, it's us, so it'll be rowdy. And hey, that's it for me. See y'all tomorrow for another episode of 5 Minute Gaming News.